All right, so it's the day after Christmas, 2021. We're here at the Gunpowder Falls hiking area off of Bel Air Road, and we're about to do one of our mainstay hikes. This one is nice because it's only probably about 15 minutes outside of Baltimore City. You take a quick drive out Bel Air Road, and the parking area is just on the side of the trailhead. As you can see, we're now crossing under Bel Air Road in this nice new tunnel that they put in last year. And the path, it's a series of loops. We're going to do one that I think that we've decided is about 5 miles. Is that correct?
I think that's about
so
right.
The blue loop, let's take a look at the blue loop here. We're here. We're going to hike down up through here and out all the way to the back of the property. So it's a combination of the blue loop, which I think is the Stockdale Trail, and then we add on the yellow trail, which is the Sweathouse Trail. So that's the plan. Come along with us on a hike.
That quickly, I forgot I have walking sticks.
One day, maybe you'll have walking sticks. Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, you could probably just leave the hiking sticks and the hiking boots in the back of my car. I'm assuming they collapse, the hiking sticks.
They do.
If I clear the stuff out of the sub, you know, the underneath part,
Collapse that much.
we could probably put both our hiking boots.
Definitely higher.
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah. Trying to keep my pace a little faster to avoid the group behind us, and also to try to finish this before dark. Since we don't always have that luck on this trail.
It's often our best intentions to come out here earlier in the day than we do, and we wind up coming oftentimes out here sort of in the later part of the day, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 or 4 o'clock. And a lot of times, you know, you would not think to start a 5 or 6 or 10 mile hike an hour or two before sunset. But in the particular instance of this trail, we've hiked this. This is really our go-to when we just want to get out and get some exercise. So there's been tons of times that we've come hiking on this trail where we finished the last half an hour or so in pitch black.
I don't recommend it though.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky. The last probably 2 miles of the trail are pretty pedestrian compared to other parts. But there are, despite it not being like scrambles and up and down and all that, it's relatively flat. There are certainly places that get awful slippery, and also the occasional rock in the trail. So I think this is probably worth pointing out now, because I know a lot of times when you're hiking, and especially with video, it doesn't really portray the elevation changes. So we're about to climb probably a couple hundred feet.
Did we go to the top of that ridge?
Over, higher than that ridge. Yeah, so it doesn't.
Go ahead so you can see how high it gets.
It's fine. I'm just saying, it's, you know, when you're looking straight ahead on the trail, and especially in a video, it's like, oh, you know, they just were walking along a flat trail. But the reality is, it's a pretty good grade right here. And this kind of does a hard left up here and then goes up to the top of the ridge, which is a couple 100-foot elevation change. And this, the nice part about this particular loop, the Stockdale and the Sweathouse Lodge trails, is that it's continuous. So you do have a few small flat areas, but you are really going up and down the whole time. So you go to the top of a ridge, you come down another ridge, you go up another ridge, you go down another ridge, and it gives you a lot of varied terrain and 3, maybe 4 different branches into the Gunpowder that you get to cross.
I think so. I think last time I checked, when we did this loop, it's like 44 flights of stairs. So it's like doing a climbing machine, a Stairmaster, as well as a hike.
It's nothing too technical. If you're not sure on your feet, you know, this is probably not the best trail, but it's also not undoable. You just have, there's a lot of elevation change. Well, I came prepared this time. Last time we were so hot.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. huffing.
You're what?
I'm huffing.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's one of the steepest parts of the view.
It is a pretty quick climb.
There's someone graduate. Oh, here's that kid.
So here we are at the split between the Pine Trail and the Stockdale Trail. The Pine Trail goes through what I was supposed to be a managed forest area, but like many of these places they planted in the 70s, they never managed it. So it is now a giant stand of pines that are mostly dying because they've reached the end of their life and they're crowding each other out, and nobody ever did anything to actually manage and diversify the forest. So I guess the upside is that probably over the next decade these trees will all die off, and other trees from the area, which the other parts of the forest are really quite healthy, will start to fill in this managed area as these dead trees come down, which you can see probably every 5th tree is dead and standing, and a lot of them are littering the floor of the forest. It's crazy, as you walk through here you'll find that in other parts of this forest area you're going to see pileated woodpeckers and blue jays and crows and starlings and finches and deer and squirrels and raccoons and fox. And in this section of the forest you see pretty much nothing because, hey, how are you? Animals do not like to live in a monoculture, so you have this pine forest that is kind of just completely devoid of life. But as you can see, if you look this way, other things are starting to creep in. So it would be nice to see the state of Maryland or Harford County come in and cut maybe 70% of this out and just leave the big healthy pine trees that are here and plant other natives like white oak and red oak and holly, and I don't think elm is a tree we plant anymore because of the Dutch elm's disease, and sadly the ash tree is a tree we no longer plant because of the emerald ash borer, but you could still easily plant 5 or 6 species of trees that would thrive here and do well in between the existing large pines. native wildlife or happy kids hiking? That's the question. Hey guys.
Hi. You're one cup up and one cup down.
Yeah. Certainly hard to fathom that this could be the same length as walking around Fort McHenry 3 times. Well, Fort McHenry is flat.
It's actually not, but
you know what I'm saying compared to this.
there's not ups and there's obvious ups and downs.
Yeah. That's why I opted for nothing but the light flannel today, because
I wish I had a bottom zipper. Just kidding. Just kidding. one of the few parts I can walk next to you on.
It is a little bit wider here.
It's lovely to see so many people out enjoying the trails. It's really nice to have it to ourselves too. That's the big advantage of going in the afternoon when other people aren't dumb enough to start hiking.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to, like if you get here around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the winter, which is, you know, about an hour before sunset, you pull into the parking lot and there's maybe 2 or 3 cars left because everybody has timed their hike
Better.
to get off the trails well before
Bring a headlamp.
sunset.
Bring a headlamp. It is helpful
So
for the final part.
it is lovely because you get, you know, most of the technical stuff, and you still, there's, you know, it's not, the sun's not up, but there's still plenty of light. And the upside is you won't run into a single person on the trails generally. You definitely don't want to be trying to walk through this in the dark. It is not a difficult trail, but it's full of
Ankle twisters.
tree roots and rocks sticking up and all kinds of things that you would definitely fall over if it was not visible.
I also recommend hiking boots. Even though it's not a really technical trail, most sneakers, if you're going to do these rocky parts, the instep of your foot gets really sore. So we have found that both of us prefer to wear hiking boots for this one. I say that right as we get to the flat level part.
Yeah, but it only stays like this for a minute.
Oh, my head was overheating. People, but I don't see them.
It's the guys we passed earlier.
I thought there were people up ahead of us. be cool to do this once a month and then overland and see how it changes over a year.
Yeah, I guess you could, if you did the same hike, relatively speaking, and shot the video in a similar way, you could just then take 1-minute snippets out of it and progress through the seasons during the course of the hike.
That'd be kind of cool. That sounds like more planning than I would be able to do, but I like the idea of it. I would watch it. If anyone's seen that, tag it in the comments. That was the height of laziness. I'll go look on my own.
Is this Facebook? Does anybody know where I can get dry cleaning done?
Google.
All right. So how far have we come so far? We were trying to start the Nike Run app to record this hike to see the actual distance if you take the path that we usually take.
1.5 miles.
That's it?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
31 minutes. Wow. That is surprising.
Yeah. I think part of the interesting part is now that it's properly fall, I mean, it's winter. It is the end of December. Yeah, but that being said, there were still a lot of leaves on trees up until recently. And I think that the tree canopy certainly adds to the quietness of this forest.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, you know, in the spring through the fall here, once you get past the first, half mile in off of Bel Air Road, you sort of lose touch with the sounds of civilization. You lose the road noise and you don't really hear planes going over. But
all hikers this way.
Yeah. When the leaves are off the trees, you hear a lot more ambient noise from here and there.
What are you doing?
All right, let's see here. So that is the first part of the Stockdale Trail. We're not going to follow that. We're going to actually cut off on the Sweathouse Trail, which adds some distance to the hike and takes us to what I think is one of the nicest parts of this park. I would say that generally speaking, the Blue Trail, the Stockdale Trail, is the trail that you see most people on. It's the largest contiguous loop, and a good portion of it, probably a mile in and a mile back, is just flat along the Gunpowder. So lots of people walk just that stretch.
You see people on a little bit of the Sweathouse Lodge in the summer because of that swimming hole.
Yeah, the swimming hole that will not be named. Sorry, Tina. We have a bunch of friends that grew up right down the street from here, and they regale us with all kinds of raucous teenage stories from the 70s when they would all come up here with beer in the summertime and hang out at what they called the Devil's Rock to go swimming. And I'm sure that if you are a Harford County resident, and specifically a Kingsville person, that you have similar stories to tell.
What did you call the little steps?
I'm not sure what you're...
So I don't fall?
Oh, penguin steps? Yeah.
That's the trick to not sliding?
Walking like a penguin. Tiny little steps. It works on slippery leaves and also ice. So you can see here what I was talking about. This is another one of the sections where they just... If you look at it as we walk, you can see that it's planted in perfectly straight rows.
But if you look back a little bit, you can also see the comparison of what it looks like when the forest is just natural. It's so much brighter.
So you can see they planted these in just rows, and they're far too close together. The idea behind these when they did it back in the 70s, I think, was that they would reforest these areas and then manage them. But what happened in reality was they planted a single species of tree super close together with the idea of once it grew to a certain size, they would cut half of it out and let the remaining trees grow to maturity, and they didn't cut any of them out. So now you can see there's just dead trees everywhere. On the ground, those are the ones that have died and fell, but then there's a lot of this, and when you look into the actual canopy, you can see that maybe only half of these trees are actually alive, and the rest of them are all standing dead, which just makes it really bad. You don't have any wildlife, and you don't have a healthy ecosystem, and sunlight getting to the forest floor that lets other little trees grow. And then as soon as you pass through the section, you can see as we get into a more natural Maryland forest that there's just a lot more space between the trees and a lot more light coming in, and there's, you know, a mat of natural grasses and raspberries and other kinds of ground or forest floor plants, and then you have sort of an understory of smaller trees as well that add to the diversity and health of the forest.
This is a great place to come raspberry picking early in the season.
Yeah, all this is raspberry, if you can see, but here's So
Fuzzy
here,
spiky ones. Do those hurt?
yeah.
Ooh.
So here are the raspberry canes, and if you look, this is all raspberry cane in here.
50 yards either direction.
And if you're going to come out in the summer and pick raspberries, you want to come out with purpose and wear a pair of long jeans and a long sleeve shirt, no matter how hot it is, because along the trail you will find no raspberries. As the hikers come through here, and everybody hikes and picks all the raspberries, you can reach at arm's length, but once you get a good 10 or 15 feet back into the hedge, other than the occasional adventurous deer pushing its way through the thicket, nothing's eating them except for birds. So you can really get in there and pick tons of good wild raspberry.
If you're afraid of spiders.
Yeah, there's also lots of spiders in there. So this is nice. You have right here, we have a little cedar grove, and unlike the pine trees,
Oh, those are cedars?
yeah, the cedars grow in little pockets because they'll send out runners and then clones come up as a new tree. So that's why they grow in groves.
Is that kind of like the redwoods?
Yep.
Cool.
So I don't think there's a lot of cedar up in here. I think there's 3 or 4 little stands like this, but now we're starting to get down towards the water. You can see the ground cover is turning into fiddleheads, or what's left of them from the season. So I should probably look this up on a map, but this is one of the many branches. If you can see down the hill here, it's probably, I'd say at least a couple 100 feet down to the stream floor, or as they call them around here, branches. And it has a name. I've looked it up before. And this flows into another branch that then flows into the Gunpowder. So this is sort of the, I guess, northeast corner of this park. If you were to keep going up over the next ridge and keep hiking, you would eventually get to people's properties, although we actually have a friend that lives right over the ridge. You wouldn't know it initially because it's not like suburban. It's, you know, a house and 50 or 60 or 75 acres, but you would definitely be on private land over the top of that ridge. All right, so we're coming down to the end, or the, I should say, one of the lowest parts of the Sweathouse Trail here. And yeah, we're off-roading it. This is like my favorite spot in the park. I'm gonna flip you guys around so you can see it. You go off the trail. Again, I don't remember the name of this branch, but I'm through the woods here a little bit. Trying to find my path of least resistance because there's a lot of brambles and stickers here. But here's one of the many branches that lead into the Gunpowder. Super lovely back in here. And in the summertime, there's a lot of places in this section of the Gunpowder that people go swimming. This is generally not one of them, but if you want to cool off and you want to enjoy yourself, right here there's a couple of pools that are 3 or 4 feet deep that are perfect for sitting in and enjoying the summer. And you don't see too many people that come down these trails. All right, let's see if we can hustle and get back on the trail before these two guys catch up to us, who are not a party to their conversation the entire trip.
I ran ahead. I thought I would
It's
try
okay.
to stay away from one of our friends. Otherwise, we were going to be behind him for the whole time.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I would have stayed at the cool spot at the end of the park for a minute and quietly enjoyed the water, but I didn't have time. No. Yeah, a couple times ago, here you go, there were the remnants of a epic battle between a band of angry blue jays and I think what was one solitary crow who got the raw end of the deal. We were out here 2 times ago and we heard all this horrible ruckus in the woods, birds fighting and screeching and calling, and as we got closer, it was right here. There must have been about 25 or 30 blue jays, and they were all attacking one crow, dive bombing him over and over again until they killed him, which was kind of crazy. I mean, I've seen the opposite happen. I've seen crows gang up on an animal, and I suppose that's why a group of crows is called a mob, or murder. A murder. That's right. Right?
I've never seen more than one blue jay at a time.
Yeah, I've never seen a group of blue jays either, and they are kind of the asshole of the bird community. But I've never seen dozens of them go after one animal and kill it. That was a weird occurrence. And that day, no one was out here. It was cold and damp, and there wasn't a single person on the trail.
It was so loud.
We saw a lot of animals that day, in fact. Not just them, but squirrels and deer and fox and owls and woodpeckers and starlings and sparrows. Probably some other birds that I can't think of what we saw. And a lot of down trees right now. Some really big new ones over there.
Yeah, I feel more like their root space got wet.
Yeah.
It blew over.
I mean, this is not, this area does not have a real deep layer of topsoil, as you can see from the ground. It's just a lot of rock. And there is a fair amount of dirt, but you can't go very far into the ground before you don't hit rock. So I think especially up on these sort of super steep hillsides, like is in this ravine here, some good weather comes through, even a relatively healthy tree can get pulled from its rooting. What's that? Yeah, this is it. Christine like a billy goat. Let's see how I do. I'm going to do this so I can record me falling in if I wind up falling in. I don't think I will. It's not really very
You're more sure-footed than I am.
deep here. And my boots are waterproof, so if anything, I'll just step in the water.
I do fine when I follow you. Like if I'm right on your heels and I can step where you step, I'm good.
All right. Well, that was a bunch of horrible camera work. That's all right.
You want the bathroom first?
I'll bring up the rear for a minute.
Yeah, let's maybe go in first.
What's that?
I'll let you go first.
Woodpecker.
That was the pileated woodpecker, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's a deal. Up and over.
I don't know what the proper name of this one is, but I'm going to name it Fox Branch.
Because of the fox?
Because this is where the fox lives.
I hear you. Look at how that one grew up around it.
Uh-huh.
Are those nests at the top? Of the big tree?
I think
They look like they might be.
they're burl, I think.
Oh.
I think they're growths in the tree.
Oh, interesting.
So this little branch, you kind of come up one side and then you cross over the saddle and then you go up another ridge here. And right in here where this tree is fallen down and there's some rocks and things, oddly enough, right in there in those rocks, under that tree is a fox den that we've seen a couple times as we've come hiking through here. He's hanging out on the edge, and when he notices us, he boogies down the little hole into the rocks there.
What happened to our other hikers?
I don't know.
I feel like they went off on a trail we don't know about.
They've probably been swallowed up by the forest. So you can see down there is where we just came from, where we crossed over the branch of the Gunpowder and up into Fox Branch. And now we're up on another ridge. This really is, I think lots of people do hike the Sweathouse branch route, but I think that out of the entire place, this is the most lovely spot back in here. As you look down into this valley here, it's just always so beautiful no matter what time of year, and especially when you get to the very end where there's no trail. Well, the funny thing is when you go off into the distance, you're always little. You're just either higher or lower than me.
Look at how short little I am. Look at how big little I am. Now look how big little I am. Oh, I'm getting bigger. I'm getting bigger. I'm getting so big. Oh my gosh, I'm so big. Ah!
You're big.
I'm a big goofball is what I am. Do you want me to carry your hat?
Nope.
Oh, I don't like these. Oh, we're not there yet. I was going to say I don't like the stairs in the fall because it's hard to see the leaves.
Yeah, I feel like somebody thought it was a good thing that they take probably hundreds of hours and build granite stairs down the face of a 100-foot ridge, which is what we're about to come up on. But I think, except for in the middle of summer when it's nice and dry and they're open, you could just be better off just going down the side of the hill.
Yeah. Got to have another water crossing scene. Back to civilization.
Yeah, I wonder, the guys that were behind us, obviously they went somewhere unless they doubled back. But
Maybe I didn't want to cross the water.
ooh, but there used to be a trail on that side that went along the water, you know, maybe 20 feet above the water.
I feel like we should.
But
Maybe they're just kind of making it around.
but it got washed away a few years back during a really big storm, and a bunch of trees fell, and it became like really pretty impassable without getting like really wet. So I don't know if somebody's cut that trail back in. It's certainly possible.
I didn't see one when we were walking. There's another boat.
Mm-hmm.
We never did figure out why it's called Sweathouse. Did we?
We did not.
That's lovely.
So back up that way, directly under where the sun is where the Devil's Rock is. And some pretty good swimming back in there. here's the part where they put in a whole bunch of steps. You really can't see when there's fall leaves. Shall we walk over to the Devil's Rock? I think we have enough time. Or should we just press through real quick? I think we should press through.
Otherwise we'll finish the trail in the dark again.
Yeah. That's okay.
I think we've done this quite a bit faster than usual. Trying to avoid people.
Yeah.
It's usually a little more leisurely. We take some breaks and enjoy the water and listen to the quiet.
Wait, stop!
不要抢，咱们帮手。哎，后面。Thank you. Bad play. My Fitbit has it closer to 4 miles.
Yeah.
Oh, this way is shorter. I don't see oranges just once.
Yeah. What trail is this? I can't even tell where we are if it's not pitch black.
I remember the first time you took me hiking here, and I think we did, actually we might have done the Blue Loop. We might not have done the Sweat House. And we were coming down in the dark, but I just had a pair of like combat boot sneakers, so they had a separate heel, like a stacked heel on them. That was not fun to walk down on rocks with. Then the next time I tried it with just regular sneakers, that was also miserable. So even though it's pretty flat, taking boots all the way.
What's that?
Because it's always been dark.
Oh, the
8 miles to go.
yeah.
Road.
These kids sound like a pack of wolves.
I can understand why they wanted to get them outside.
Right?
Get them to burn some of their energy off. What we got in there?
Probably sparrows or starlings or something. Although I heard that woodpecker again just now.
Is that also part of the park on the other side?
Yep.
I wonder where that one goes. I don't see people on it.
It basically just goes straight along the edge of the Gunpowder to Harford Road.
Oh.
And it's a really, I don't know, I mean, it's just, it just goes in a straight line. Basically.
A little less interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot less interesting. I've done it a couple times and I just didn't, after I did it like twice, I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's kind of like the same,
Like the railroad trail.
if you go the other way,
Oh.
you know, to the, whatever they call those, the Potts Rocks, I think is what they call it. Because there's,
The first time I went on that side of the road, I didn't know that you could, like I hadn't been back here. I had never tried hiking here, so I went that way. And when I got there, there must have been like 50 or 100 people in the water. It was like, it was not what I thought of as nature. I was like, this is horrific.
yeah, well, it's, you know, it is a state park. It's free to go in. And in the summertime, if you go that way, you hike a mile or so, there's a thing called Potts Rocks, which are these big, flat, enormous rocks. I mean, like hundreds of feet wide. And in the tops of them, for whatever reason, the water rushing over when it's really high has eroded holes. So when the water gets high enough, it fills up all the pots and then they are all full of water. But depending on when you go, like sometimes it's fun and cool, and other times there's been water in those pots for like a month, and they're like nasty. It smells like, you know, like a swamp
Yeah.
over there. So, but everybody likes to go over there and swim off of those
Or
rocks.
sunbathe on the rocks.
Yeah, so you get, on a hot day in Baltimore, there's
Not
an
just here,
easy
everywhere.
chance of 100 people being out there
When we've
with their
driven
little
around,
kids and their dogs and everything else.
when we've driven around any place that there's like deep water, you'll see cars along the side of the road, people with like bathing suits and hiking boots and like floatable like inner tubes. It's crazy to me. I've never lived anywhere where I've seen something like that before.
Well, that's not a thing that you're capable of doing in Alaska for the most part.
It's true.
So, I mean, I would try it.
In Alaska or here?
Alaska.
Well, you
I've done it here.
You can't do it in the winter, but in the summertime
Yeah.
you could. You got great flow conditions. You got like 20 hours of sunlight. Perfect.
Yeah. Ah,
In fact, they have in Fairbanks. They had, obviously, I've not been there in a really long time, but they had restaurants that had moorings along the main river, and you could just float down, tie up, and so we would do a movable feast. We would just float to like appetizers, and then float down to main meal, and then float down to dessert. It was fun. So I guess the water here is flowing towards the pots.
Yes.
Does it go? Where does it go past that? Does it still go on?
To the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, okay.
Goes to Gunpowder State Park, beach.
There's a beach?
Yeah, there
I've
is.
never been.
That guy's been.
What was that?
It's a mallard duck.
That was a mallard, not somebody pretending to be a mallard?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, squirrel.
Oh, I can hear the road.
Yeah. I can see a squirrel.
There.
He just ran across the path.
I wasn't paying attention.
We'll see some deer,
Too early, don't you think?
probably.
I thought about bringing some treats for the squirrels, and then I thought that's probably frowned upon.
Not to
feed
mention, they don't
wild
eat anything. There's so much food to eat here. Berries and nuts.
I know,
And
but they don't have raisins. I'm just saying that could be like a little Christmas treat. But again, I thought better because you shouldn't feel bad. Sorry, Mr. Squirrel. Maybe next time. This is definitely a path for somebody.
oh yeah, it's deer.
Down here?
Yeah. I mean, obviously at some point, I guess I never really paid attention, but this must have been paved. Because I'm seeing chunks of asphalt.
Yeah?
That are sort of unearthed. Probably at the same time as they were planting 300% more pine trees than they needed to plant.
This would have been very different with a paved
Pathway.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some places. I was just thinking about, I'm trying to think what the name of it is. There's a place down on the Virginia-Maryland border that part of it is a county park and part of it is a national park. And it's like a really famous set of waterfalls, but then you can hike along both sides. And on the Virginia side is the national park, and it's like it's lovely,
But it's paved.
but it's horrible. It's like it's you know it's
Horrible and lovely.
yeah it's like you know the views of the waterfalls and all the jagged rocks and the steps are beautiful, but it's like, you know, massive wooden viewing decks and perfectly groomed, you know, packed crush and run pathways that are big enough to get a giant car down, and you know, and it's way too many people. And then on the Maryland side, which I believe is a park maintained by Montgomery County, there it's really rustic. And like it has, when you get into the proper part of the park, there's a couple of old, like abandoned 1930s parks buildings, but that's pretty much it. And I think it's called the Billy Goat Trail, because
Sounds familiar to me.
you have to jump from rock to rock, like literally jump over, you know, waterways, like active 2 or 3 foot, you know, chasms that water's flowing through, and just, you know, very tricky. Completely the opposite, same park.
This is a favorite rock of the kids.
I guess. All right. Well, that was a relatively quick hike, and tons of daylight to get back to the parking area today.
So unusual.
Okay.
If it weren't with everything going on, I would even suggest we stop at the Gunpowder Lodge.
Yeah.
I think I will forgo that for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Normally, hey, how's it going?
Hi!
Normally at the end of a hike here, there's a place right across the Gunpowder here called the Gunpowder Lodge that has
Right there.
cold adult beverages and
Some good bar food.
yeah, pretty good food, subs and burgers and all kinds of other stuff. What's in here? That was hilarious.
That his burrowed his friend.
No, he fell down the hill. I watched him fall down the hill under the leaves. And then I was like, well, what is it? Is it a squirrel? It is.
Now he's embarrassed.
He's like, I'm just going to lay here,
I didn't see that.
make sure nobody saw me. Oh, man, they got me on camera. Never lived that down with the guys.
Definitely gonna show up on Squirrel YouTube.
So, yeah, so pretty good bar food. And plenty on draft beer-wise and cider and wine and things like that. So it's nice to, you can literally just walk across right here at the end of the trails and get a drink and have a little bite to eat. But with the crazy holiday surge in Omicron, 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 what is it called? Omega Man. whatever the new vid is, we'll take a rain check for a while. And both of us are going to try to stay healthy because we get to do some international travel in a few weeks, and I mean, we don't want to get the vid anyway, but
It's true. Ooh, my wrist is buzzing.
yeah.
My Fitbit
Is that 10,000 steps?
says 10,000 steps. Let's see what my Nike Run app says. So theoretically, that should be 5 miles. It's about, granted, possibly not all in this. It's about 2,000 steps a mile. I don't feel like the Nike Run app says 376.
I don't think that's right at
I
all.
don't either.
I don't think even just the blue loop, I think, is more than that. But
But remember, I told you I thought my
yeah,
times were off, and this just made me log back in, so I feel like it's probably not calibrated correctly. I would guess the time is right,
yeah.
and it's going to be about an hour and a half when we get back.
All right, so here we are, reaching the end of the Gunpowder State Park Central area where all the hiking trails are. Oh, these rocks right here, man! These are brutal. I don't know who put these giant rocks down, but they are all ankle twisters. And this coming up right here is Bel Air Road. You can see right across the Gunpowder here is the Gunpowder Lodge. We just passed a lady on her cell phone. Oh, I wouldn't come out here either.
Or I might rent a steamroller. And just go. In fact, I might do that anyway. I might just rent a steamroller and go back and forth.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on our first hike. Last hike, well, it's probably won't be the last hike of this year. We'll probably,
Echo bother you?
yeah, we'll probably do another hike. We're now in the tunnel, in the $50 million Harford County tunnel. It took them 3 years to build. But this is, I think, going to be our first inaugural video for our hiking channel that is yet to be named. Although the main ones are, what was it, the big hike, maybe?
Go take a hike.
Or, hey, go take a hike, which I think we both kind of like the, hey, go take a hike, because we're both 1930s newspaper boys at heart. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed the Gunpowder Park Central Trails. You should absolutely come out here when you get a chance. Oh, geez. Yep. Harford County rolling all the coal.
Hear ya.
We hear you in your F-350 that you don't carry anything in. All right, anyway, so that's it for us. We'll see you guys on the next hike.
Bye.
Hey, go take a hike.